This lesson discusses building classes by inheritance. The topics include what is meant by inheritance, how do you create a class which inherits from another class, what if you need to make a change in the child class, and what is the advantage of using inheritance. Moving over to our first code example, we have two classes, class parent class and class child class. Class child class extends parent class, and by extending the parent class, it automatically inherits all public properties and methods. In the parent class, you can see we have two public properties and one public method. The child class will then inherit those three items. In addition, the child class has additional functionality which will be over and above what is available from the parent class. So when the child class is instantiated, it will have two properties and two methods. Two properties and one method are inherited from the parent class. The second method, wrap ITag, is added functionality. On line 25, we instantiate the child class. On line 26, we make use of the BR property, which comes from the parent, the wrap btag method, which comes from the parent, space comes from the parent, and wrap ITag comes from the child class. On line 29, we're echoing the output of the actual properties of the class itself using var export. Var export is a variation of var dump, which returns a value instead of producing output directly. The reason why we're using HTML entities is that we want to wrap the information rather than rendering the information. HTML entities is very similar to HTML special characters in that it converts characters into their HTML equivalences. Moving over to the browser, let's have a look at the first example. So as you can see, we have bold, space, and italics, and the child class inherits the properties BR and space from the parent class. Looking now at the next code example, the question arises, what if you need to make a change in the functionality of the parent? So again, we've got two classes, parent class and child class. Child class extends parent class, thereby inheriting all public properties and methods. In this case, there's two methods, wrap body and doctype. You'll notice in the parent class, doctype returns an HTML4 doctype, whereas in the child class, on line 21, the doctype method has been redefined to return an HTML5 doctype. As you saw in the previous example, it's very easy to add functionality in the child. It's also extremely easy to override functionality by simply redefining the method exactly as described in the parent. Let's now look at the output from this example. We instantiate both classes, parent class and child class. On lines 31 and 32, we're going to echo the doctype from the parent class and then wrap up the body in a test message. Moving now to the browser, let's look at the second example. We now go to the view source, and as you can see, we have an HTML4 doctype definition. Let's now make a change. Go back to the code and try the child doctype instead of the parent doctype. So let's uncomment two lines, comment up these two lines, save the file, loop back to the browser, and refresh. Now the output, of course, looks the same, except, of course, the message has changed to test child. But let's now look at the source. And you can see very clearly that we have an HTML5 document type definition instead of an HTML4 document type definition. In review, what is meant by inheritance? Inheritance is where one class is derived from another. All methods and properties, except those marked private, are then inherited from the parent class to the child class. How do you create a class which inherits from another class? You use the keyword extends. So in this example, class child extends parent. You would then have the code. What if you need to make a change in the child class? If you want to change the functionality of a method, you simply define a method of the same name in the child class with the new functionality. This is referred to as overriding. You can also create new methods and new properties in the child class. What is the advantage of using inheritance? Inheritance allows you to create a base class with minimal functionality. You could then extend the base class, and all child classes which extend the base class would have the same properties and the same methods. This technique then lets you reuse code in other website projects, which will ultimately save you time. This concludes our discussion of building classes by inheritance.